Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Homebrew Hobbies. I'm Calvin,
Next.
and we're here to talk about RPGs today. Let's go ahead and get right into some hobby talk. So, what have you been working on lately that's RPG related or otherwise?
Um, let's see. I've been slowly picking away at a mega dungeon I'm building. Um, it's got one room per day of the year, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm also currently running a game. I'm pretty sure we're scheduled to play tomorrow, and I'm also playing in a game that we will also be playing tomorrow.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah. Sundays are busy days.
your new campaign. Is this one that you're running? You said you're playing?
No, so the one I've been running. Um, Yeah, I run a game tomorrow in the early afternoon, and then I'll be playing with you in the evening. I think.
Right. Yeah, we got a session tomorrow. Um,
Yeah,
nice. How long has that been going on?
since about mm, March this year, we've been playing. I would say every 2 to 3 weeks.
Nice. What's the general theme? Do you guys have like the setting is a pre-made or something you did on your own?
It's something I developed on my own. It's just a homebrew set in my own world.
Nice. Would you say it's more, because I've been noticing lately there's kind of like a divide of more grimdark themed stuff and then more like heroic is a comparison I've seen. Where would you place yours?
I would probably place mine uh, probably a little bit closer to. It's somewhere in the middle, of course, as most things are, but I would say it's slightly closer to grimdark. I try to keep it very grounded in reality and well, hopefully not too grim or dark, but certainly not too heroic either.
Yeah, yeah. I know there's one of my favorite. Well, actually, I haven't played it yet, but I'm really excited to. There's this game called Fear and Hunger, and when I saw it, I was like, "That's the epitome of grimdark right there." So I
It
tend
certainly
to
sounds like
that.
it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm on that side of the scale personally. So I think I already brought it up. We're into hobby talk. You're telling me about your mega dungeon idea. Something about every day of the year is related to one room, right?
Yeah. So the theory goes that every day you add one room onto the dungeon, and at the end of the year you have a mega dungeon, something gigantic and you know that will take an entire game, campaign's worth of time to explore. I haven't kept up with it very well, but the idea is to pick away at it a little bit at a time and add here and there.
Nice. Yeah,
I
that's
think I'm
mhm.
just over a floor in right now.
One floor in. Nice. So it's sort of like a wizard's tower or like a descending pit, something like that.
Descending pit, more like.
Oh,
Mine is so the first floor is a an ancient tomb, and you descend further down into the spoilers at the end of the first floor. The ground breaks open after the boss fight or during the boss fight, and you find yourself in a network of caverns, which will continue down
nice.
for 12 floors.
Crazy. That reminds me of a campaign we've been in, which is fun. Probably our longest standing campaign. But we'll get into that shortly. We're in hobby
Yeah.
talk right now. So what I've been working on lately, just when I'm like taking the dogs out and stuff, I've been picking away at my peasant cube in Magic: The
Oh,
Gathering.
very nice, very nice.
Yeah, I love peasant cube. It's so much fun.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. So
It's among the best ways to play.
yeah, one of the best. Yeah, just been I got my archetypes all laid out, and I've been kind of refining this cube for a while as new cards come out. I'm a huge fan of the
Nice.
map tokens with
Oh,
Ixalan.
they're brilliant.
Yeah, so
Map tokens are so good.
yeah, yeah, that's been a lot of fun. Just kind of brainstorming more on the mental side, and then physically, I've been working on painting a unit of Cruel Boys Warhammer models, not
Very
for any
nice.
specific army or specific game, but just for fun. I just love the models, and it's kind of rough painting models with that much detail because you got to get in all the little nooks, and the angles are rough, but it's a lot of fun. Once the shields, if you've never seen the models, they got these screaming shields, and they're so much fun to paint because once you get the textures and the lighting on there, it looks really nice. So
Yeah, nice.
yeah, that's been hobby time. Um, let's see. We were talking recently about what we've been reading. So you mentioned Sandman.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe not give us like a full review, but what are some general thoughts about that?
it's good. It's really, really good. I mean, I would read anything by Neil Gaiman. He's a phenomenal writer, and this is some of his most excellent work. He pairs up with some really, really skilled comic artists, or did when it was running. It's just absolutely fascinating. It's about the King of Dreams, and the the way he interacts with people is just always interesting and revealing.
Yeah, I know he does characters very well. Like you're saying, the
He does.
interactions and dialogue is a major part of his writing. So
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, I'm on a good routine right now with I'll usually do a comic book before bed and then an audiobook as I'm falling asleep. So
nice.
uh, my comic at the moment is a series called Preacher, and
Oh yeah, I'm well, I haven't read it, but I'm definitely heard of it.
nice. Yeah, I hadn't for the longest time, and then our older brother Sid was talking with one of his friends about it. I was like, "Oh, that sounds wild," And apparently he heard about it from Harris when we were
Oh
kids.
wow.
Yeah, and yeah, it's I really enjoy it. The content is not for everyone. It's a little bit on the gruesome side. It has lots of religious ideas that they explore in it. So yeah, really fascinating series. And it's a western essentially. So very
Oh,
cool. Yeah, and it takes place in Texas, which I just moved out here, which has been nice. And then as I fall asleep, I've been listening to the Warhammer Horus Heresy series, which is kind of like 30K, the history of 40K. Uh,
very cool.
yeah, I'm on the fourth book of that right now, which I remember not loving the first time I read it. So we'll see. It's called The Flight of the Eisenstein. And essentially, there was like Horus started his betrayal in the third book and against the Emperor. And then this is kind of like some of the heroes are escaping to go warn the Imperium. So yeah, that's been kind of like what I've been falling asleep to. It's been a fun read.
Oh, I have a friend who's reading through the Horus Heresy right now. Actually,
Oh yeah, nice.
yeah,
Yeah, I love the first three books quite a lot. But then as it goes on, it's like there's some that are hit or miss. I recently shared with you the Commissar Kane, and those are
yeah. Those are that was an absolute blast.
yeah,
I can't wait to get to reading the next few in the series.
yeah. I think they get better too. He's a good character.
Oh, nice.
So on to other news. The only thing that I've heard recently, well, I guess there is like the new D&D edition is going to be maybe like 5.5 or D&D 1, something like that. Like a
Yeah,
slight update to the rules. You have any knowledge on that?
not really. I haven't I haven't done my homework. I know that they're releasing. I'm pretty sure they're releasing a VTT like as a companion to it. Which I think is why they're updating the rules is so that it will work cleaner in a VTT setting.
That's exciting
Um,
because the
but yeah,
virtual
I'm excited
tabletop,
about because
yeah, it's
virtual
transformed
tabletops
the way we play.
are yeah. Um, I you and I play on a VTT for our game, and it makes me miss the tabletop every time I use it.
Absolutely, yeah. The minis,
So it
the
would be nice to
papers.
have an officially supported one and hopefully a very clean one.
Hmm. Yeah, first party usually works out better, so we'll hope for that. And then the other bit of news, I think I mentioned to you recently, is Pathfinder Remastered, I think is the name of it. And it's essentially Pathfinder redefining its world a little bit to distinguish it from the Forgotten Realms, Faerun. Um,
Right.
and I think there's some legal reasons behind that, but also I'm excited for it, just from a lore perspective, to see kind of like maybe like a new flagship setting that we can enjoy. So,
Yeah, I to be honest, I didn't really play very much Pathfinder in any edition. We fuddled around. I think we even owned one of the books for a little
mhm.
while. Um, but I don't think we ever like took it all that seriously.
When I've
The
explored it, I did two relatively short campaigns, and they were
hmm,
both they didn't have like a distinct setting. They were just like, oh, you're in a fantasy world. There are
right.
wizards and druids and whatnot. So,
Yeah, yeah. I've never really dug into the lore of Pathfinder or much of that, but I'm certainly interested to. I
mhm.
love the lore of D&D. I have enjoyed many fantasy settings in my time, and I'm sure this will be another good one. I can't wait to check out some of the books.
Yeah, yeah, same. You mentioned exploring many different settings, and one of the things we're going to talk about today is like our inspiration and our background. And I believe the term is prenatal, right? Before you're born in the womb, is that
Yeah,
right? Okay, so
I believe
prenatally,
so.
we were watching Lord of the Rings, so that's probably our earliest influence. That was probably playing in the hospital, right, when both of us were born.
I want
Wait,
to
no, that
say,
came out in like 2001. Never mind.
yeah, I want to say that was a couple years after yeah,
Right, right. But that was an early influence for sure.
early
And
influence, no doubt. Lord of the Rings, the films, Peter Jackson was a heavy played a heavy part in our love of fantasy.
definitely, yeah. And just before we get into like our full history, did you have any shout outs or any projects you're excited about that you wanted to kind of share with everyone?
Um, well, at the moment, this one.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kidding. Um, Matthew Colville
Oh,
and the team over at MCDM are working on a their own RPG system. They've developed some really excellent like supplemental books for D&D 5e. Um, and in doing that, they said, you know what? What if we even just made our own system and developed our own books for that? And I am thrilled. I cannot wait. Every single time they post about it, I gotta read it
yeah.
or watch the video or whatever. I've been
Following
looking
it.
forward to that.
Yeah, I haven't followed it super closely, but just knowing his approach towards role playing and his knowledge of the systems gets me really excited about. I'm sure he can design a really clean and efficient way of playing.
Yeah, his book or their book, because it's not just his project.
Mhm.
Flea Mortals was their monster supplemental book was excellent, and if you don't have it, I highly recommend you know giving a look through at least one of the stat blocks or something. I could probably send you a photo or something because
Nice.
they are well worth reading and they're insightful
Yeah, send
into
me
how they play.
nice. Yeah, send me a stat block of one of your favorite monsters. Sounds pretty
I
cool.
certainly will.
Um, so I guess the shout outs I got, it just popped in my mind. I've been following a few Patreons that do 3D models for printing. I've
Oh,
been
nice.
wanting to do some 3D printing for a while, get my hands on the machine first. But Dragon Trapper's Lodge is one that releases. Um, at one point, they released like an entire setting, and they had the D&D module for it for fifth edition. They had all the stats. They had like, I mean, it was a full module, but it also came with 3D files to print out all the monsters and NPCs and environments. So that was super cool looking. Little shout out for them. I love to support these independent content creators making super cool models and making their own worlds. Then also,
Yeah, for sure.
what else? Oh, there's a new zine, which is a term I've recently discovered from Vince Venturella. He is the host of Warhammer Weekly. I sent you, and
Yeah,
so he talks about Warhammer. He's big in the community there. I learned a lot of painting techniques from him, but he's been designing these short rule systems. So a zine is like an independent company releasing a rule system. It doesn't have any models. It doesn't have a board game. It's just a system, right? For wargaming or role playing, something like that.
I believe the term comes from magazine.
Ah, okay, like a
It
magazine.
follows in the tradition of stuff like Dragon Magazine and the Magic the Gathering one.
Yeah,
And
they
I
had.
don't remember.
Oh,
The
that's
name escapes
cool.
me right now, but the point
Right.
remains.
Yeah, I didn't know the origin there. I just I heard people talking about like, oh yeah, it's basically like a short rule system. Um, so
I'm
yeah,
sure you
he
could do lots of things with it. But yeah, in pertinence to our particular hobbies, people often will release little, rule snippets or stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so he's done a few of those. He works with another guy called Uncle Adam, and they release these game systems maybe like 2 or 3 times a year. And they just did one about tank combat. I think it's
Tank combat.
yeah, yeah, tanks for the
Nice.
apocalypse. Yeah,
Very cool.
and you just run one tank, and it's just like a little skirmish game. So that looked really cool. Yeah, those are my shout outs for today.
Nice.
Yeah, so let's get on to our main topic. And today we're basically just kind of building credibility and establishing who we are as gamers and the hobby. And why don't you get us started at the very beginning? How do we get into it?
Sure. So we have been playing for literally as long as I can remember some form of fantasy RPG. Like one of my earliest, like, most formative memories is we spent a little time with family in Chicago. While we were there, we someone ran a game and we played in it, and I couldn't have been more than like 5 or 6 years old, maybe a little older than that, but like that's
Crazy how
very
people
very
remember
young.
that.
We've been
Yeah.
yeah yeah. Um,
Cool. I'd forgotten. That was a long time ago.
yeah, I know, right? And basically, I mean, ever since then, we've just been fascinated with the hobby of tabletop RPGs, and um, I mean, very early on, you were already taking the initiative to run games with whatever we had available. I mean, you remember, of course, uh, designing dungeons with Legos.
Oh yeah. So I was thinking about this when we are getting ready, and nowadays people are like, "Oh, there's this cool Lego set." I don't ever remember Lego sets. I remember a giant box with tons of random pieces in it, and we
Yep.
would keep them bundled up in a sheet and dump it out over the floor. So we would just have, like maybe a million pieces. We had thousands, and it's like, oh, what can we make out of this? Just random bits. Yeah, there was like some samurai pieces that were really cool, and it was like, oh, you can actually give your miniature this sword. It's like, oh, I want my guy to, have a katana. It's like, well, we got a little piece for that. So they wear the gear that you want them to use. Yeah, I think when we were growing up, Dad must have had one of the third edition rule books of 3.5, and I remember
Yeah.
some of the art being so cool. There was like skeletons with bits dripping off of him, or like battered armor, and during the items section, you have like drawings of all the maces and weapons, and yeah.
Yeah,
So
the art was super evocative. I always loved it. Probably always will. I think fantasy art is still one of the biggest draws to the hobby.
yeah, I think that's what won me over. Was like this art is so cool. I want to create a whole world that,
Yeah,
of course,
that
they
it
already
should fit
had.
in. Yeah,
Yeah. Nice. So that was like the early days, right? We did, I
yeah.
guess, a campaign or like a one-off session out in where you said that was in where was that?
I want to say that was in Chicago with
Chicago.
our uncle.
Right. I think you're right. And then we did some Lego dungeons.
Yep,
I
yep.
remember there was a computer program at one point that Lego had put out where you could create your own set, and you had access to like every Lego piece ever designed. So I saw some online that people had made of like Helm's Deep, or some
Oh, that's really
crazy
cool.
alien invasion, just really cool stuff. And I was like, oh, I could like my imagination started going crazy. I could design a complete world in this.
Certainly can.
Yeah. And then let's see, when we moved to, that was all probably in, when we were really young in Ohio and in
Yeah.
California. And then when we moved to Rhode Island, we started to run campaigns with some friends. We even started doing some LARP. That was a lot of fun, man. That was a whole other
Yes.
branch. But yeah, tell me about some of the campaigns we did out there.
Yeah. So we very early on we discovered a shop, and they were running what was called at the time encounters for the newest edition of D&D, which was fourth edition, of course. Uh, and it was a weekly it was a weekly game that you would play, and they would run like a season. So you would get they would send like essentially a module to a shop, and you'd have someone come in and DM the module, and people would play at those tables. So like everyone across the country who was playing encounters was playing the same game at the same time. I mean, it wasn't always exactly the same, of course, but they were, you know, engaging the same storyline, fighting the same bosses and stuff. And we played that for a good long while.
I remember one of the attractions of that system was that you could switch between parties and DMs, and just the fact that it's
Yeah,
all, like you said, going through the same plot with the same items. So it's balanced
yeah,
and, I don't know, interchangeable maybe is the word.
yeah. It was a really interesting idea. Honestly, I kind of think they should look into doing something like that again. I don't know how effective that would be because we're very much in the age of, or going into the age of online D&D, and I don't think
Mm.
that they want to move backwards from that. But it
You
was
know,
fun for me at the time.
I remember as well because we were fairly young at that time in our teens, and going to a local game store, we met such a variety of interesting people. There was the Goliath at the store, this
Oh yeah,
hulk of a man, and everybody there knew him, and then there's like the legendary DM Sam, who was like, oh, he's
the
this
Iron DM.
yeah, really descriptive. You said the Iron DM.
Yeah, that's what they called him.
Oh
They
man.
said once he ran two tables at the same time. This
Oh
man had his own legends.
yeah, so really cool people, meeting a crazy community and making some friends out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, some of my favorite memories of D&D was playing at a store, and I don't currently have a store that
Attend.
will to DM at, but I
Mm.
would love to you know run games at a local game store, especially if I have something self-contained, like a mega dungeon, if I or probably a much smaller campaign.
Yeah. We have a couple really, really cool stores out here that I've been wanting to go to, but the timing just hasn't been right. Getting our schedules to line up and having
Yeah,
some time to go out and check it out. It's been rough, but they have one of the stores called Night's Watch Games, I believe, and they have these thematic rooms. So one of them is called the Death Star room, and it's all sci-fi looking and industrial. And then we got there's a medieval room, and it's like a classic, like, oh man, they just got like lots of really woodworky rustic looking stuff, and it's got that
nice.
classic medieval plaster design in the room. It's really cool. And then they have like suits of armor and stuff. So,
It
I,
sounds like it's pretty much the perfect place to run a game.
yeah, exactly. And
There's
I
a
think we
place,
reserve a room, and yeah.
yeah, there's a place in California when I lived in LA for a little while that had an excellent D&D room, or D&D space. It was called Geeky Teas and Games. Um, I loved that store. It was super nice folks and great environment. But their upstairs was similarly like kind of D&D themed, and it was really well designed.
Is this where you get the actual tea, like tea leaves?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, geeky teas. You got like the Earl Grey and spice
Yeah, not
melange.
not T-shirts as I initially thought from the name. Um,
Yeah, nice.
but
Yeah, that's a
they
super cool place.
yeah
All right, nice. So that was we neither of us are currently with a local game store specifically. There's another one around here we want to check out too. But that's how we kind of got into the community was at Battleground Games and Hobbies
yeah.
in Rhode Island. Well, Rhode Island, right? Yeah,
I think they're technically in Mass. I want to say that
Massachusetts,
they
over the border.
yeah we're in
Yeah,
Plainsville.
cool. Yeah, and that's where we actually did a lot of Magic releases there too. Friday Night Magic sometimes. So that was
Yep.
like our early days. And then what other kind of sessions did we get into out there?
So we ran for a little while. We I think we met them through the store through at Battlegrounds. A guy named Chuck, and he ran a game for us for years. Yeah, it was probably our longest running individual. Well, maybe not anymore because we did recently.
Oh yeah, our current
Anyways,
campaign
the point
and
is,
the one
we
before it.
played with
Yeah,
Chuck for a good couple of years.
I think it was
On
like
a
5 or 6 years we were doing that campaign.
yeah, we ran for a while. It was awesome. Uh, yeah, we played with Chuck for a while. He ran us a 4E game.
And
Um,
that was a homebrew, if I'm correct, because I don't think any of it reflected specific lore from any other setting.
I think that part of it was I think it started as like a module, and then from there diverged pretty broadly into
It got creative.
his own version of the Forgotten Realms, which I really liked.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that was
We
an
also
epic setting. We got to, I think, basically max level in fourth edition, right?
yeah, I think we even I believe we went past level 20. I think that's the
Mhm.
first time we've ever actually done that.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and still the only.
Mhm.
um, we also ran our own games from time to time with, frankly, just absurd numbers of people. I think we at one point we were playing an 8-player game plus a DM, which is
Uh,
just uncontrollable in my opinion.
oh yeah. So this
Um,
this was in the high school days. We basically started a group after school at the local library called Nerd Day Thursday,
yeah,
and we'd all gather and play Magic, play D&D. We'd go out and LARP in the woods behind the library. Um,
yep,
kind of a golden age of gaming and childhood freedom, and everyone wanted to play. So we would have these, 8-person parties. Like you said, it was uncontrollable.
controllable.
um, so that we ran a few that were kind of like that. We had a few games that split off and were smaller scale, and they were all homebrews at that point. It was
Yeah,
us just having cool ideas and wanting to explore that and create a world together.
yeah. I think that pretty well encompasses most of our time spent gaming with D&D in high school.
And I think it was almost all third edition 3.5, right?
Yeah, we played a lot of third edition. Um, we played, I think, yeah, it was exclusively third edition for a long time. Although once we started playing at the library, I want to say we moved a little bit to 4E just because it was available and we had
Some of the books, the
access to the
online,
computers and printers.
yeah, the online resources were more accessible for some people trying to make characters, and um,
Yeah, it was a
I
much
know,
simpler, character building process.
yeah, I know there was some Pathfinder with Andrew and his family that I played with, and Chuck did another smaller campaign at one point, and we used Pathfinder there as well. So a little bit of that sprinkled in, but a lot of third edition, and they're uh, fairly equivalent to each other.
Yeah,
Back then they were, yeah. So what did we end up doing after that?
let's see. I want to say we some of us moved away.
Hmm.
I want to say mom and dad moved out to California, and some of us,
Kind of like a hiatus period, right?
yeah, we went through a little break. So we weren't playing very much. I was still, running infrequent games on my own.
Mm.
They were okay. I wasn't super.
In love with
It was my
it.
first real foray into DMing. So I was
Ah,
mostly a player before then, and I decided, you know what, I want to run. I want to play D&D. No one else is even really very familiar with the rules, so
right.
here
Let
I
me
am.
take the reins. Yeah. I remember
Um,
maybe during this period was like you said more of like the design. We weren't actively playing, but we might have been writing up some rules or some settings, some encounters, just
yeah,
having fun, playing video games more maybe.
yeah, definitely playing a lot of video games. And I think, yeah, we missed a good period of getting the game together. But
Mm.
when when we all connected, reconnected, we were living together for a while in um,
In California after that,
2019 in LA.
that's about right. Yeah.
Um, we I decided to run another game. And you guys had already been playing with our current play group with Yoshi, Spencer, and Delmy
Mm.
um, for a while. So when I moved out there, I was the last to join the pod, so to speak. Um, I hopped into the game you guys had been playing for a while, which was a book. It was Curse of Strahd. We were run by our friend Yoshi.
Another Iron
Um,
DM.
Another higher DM. Yeah, Yoshi's old guard. He's been playing since before I was alive. He's been playing with Dad since Dad and him were in high school together.
Right. Wow.
Um, I have to imagine. I guess I've never interviewed him.
It's got to be the 80s, I think.
80s, probably early 90s at latest. I'm gonna guess is when they both
Mm.
got on that hook.
Right.
Um,
So he was a rough DM
so
apparently. I joined that campaign also slightly into it. So they
mm,
had started and then they needed more players and I was around. So um, I this is an interesting point. I usually will kind of build a character based on the party. So like I'm the flex slot and
yeah,
typically players like to create these extravagant strategies and crazy utility effects that never really come into play and they build their characters weird, you know? So I come in
yeah,
as like the general, well, every party needs damage.
yeah.
So,
Every party needs damage. Every party needs someone who will
heal.
stand in front of the mage.
Yeah. So I came in as like a generic, it's like, all right, well, we need a frontliner, I fill
Yeah,
the gaps. And that was a lot of fun. That character ended up evolving a little bit. They always do, right? You start with an idea in mind, then you go through an adventure and become something new. So,
yeah, of course. Um, let's see. So while we were playing in Curse of Strahd with Yoshi and Spencer and Delmy, we I was running my own game at home. Yeah, with the family, and that is actually the same setting that I'm running now. Yeah, so I've taken everything I learned from the first time through, and I'm revamping it. I'm continuing to improve and develop the setting.
so remind me, because I think I remember two of your campaigns. Uh, and I think when I was playing Balkus, was
Yes,
that the camp? And we started by there was like a lizard man adventure in the beginning, or was that the other
Lizard
campaign?
Man Adventure.
Yeah, there was like a
I do believe that
shaman.
was another game.
Okay, I'm getting them confused, but go on. So we were running one at home while we did this.
Yeah, so I was running one at home. It was an idea for a game that I've been kind of percolating since I was listening to podcasts and audiobooks at work, and I listened through Sabriel,
Mm,
which is one of my all-time favorite books, if
super
not
good.
the
Yeah,
actual all-time favorite book. Um,
everyone should check out Sabriel and Lyriel Abhorsen series. Very cool.
yeah, very good. But one of the things that hooked me in that book was the idea of this like gigantic stone that had like runes written on it that would effectively like channel positive magic into the area. And so I kind of took that and ran with it. That
Ah,
was the
so this
basis of the
setting,
setting is every town has its own, runestone in it that channels a protective positive field.
right? And this is maybe has a parallel as well to Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, which we played growing
Yes.
up, where
Yes,
each
it
town
does.
similarly had a protective aura from the magic stone at the source.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think we were just getting into the digital era, right? We're approaching on that. All right.
Yes.
You've been running your campaign kind of like a reimagined version where you picked up some of the little things from our last time we played it. And
hmm
is that something you run in person right now?
Yeah, it is. I run with my roommate or one of my roommates, and a couple of my coworkers. No, one of my coworkers and a couple old friends that I have in the area that I knew from high school. Andrew, and Anders, you may remember.
Oh yeah, very cool. All right. So we when COVID hit, our in-person session from California went digital. So we
Yep,
learned to use what Roll20 is our virtual tabletop. There are some other cool ones. We'll probably explore that in the future. And then
definitely.
obviously the 5.5, the next D&D is gonna incorporate some of that as well. But that was mid campaign in Strahd, which we ended up finishing maybe a year ago, something like that.
Yep,
And
give or take.
yeah, and then we started. One of the players started running the next campaign, which is Descent into Avernus, something like that. Another official module. Both have been super fun. That's a cool party. We actually have a band called Flock of the Apocalypse. Our characters do anyway.
Yeah, that we do.
So yeah, running some virtual gameplay is actually there's a lot that's convenient about it. Being able to just hop on real quick. You don't have to commute or whatever.
Yeah,
You have good snacks at home, but there was also kind of like a party atmosphere of like, oh well, bring snacks and come together as a community when we were in person too. So both very enjoyable, I think.
yeah, in their own ways. I mean, obviously you can't beat the comfort of your own home, but you also can't beat the physical company of other people and the food they help make and share with everyone and the just general atmosphere
Yeah.
is always good in person.
Mm. Nice. So that's kind of what we're going through right now. We got your campaign in person. You're working on your
Yep.
mega dungeon, which is
Yep.
coming up. That'll be cool. I'd love to run that online and maybe share
Oh
that with
yeah.
some of the listeners here.
Oh, I'd be delighted. As soon as I have a physical write up because I do all my stuff by hand. I actually have
Mm.
it's buried right now under heavy books, but I have all my campaign information for the world is called Theia, named after I believe one of the moons of Jupiter.
Ooh.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, which is named after a Greek fable character.
Your
Um,
astronomical knowledge impresses me because I think I'm not well versed, but I have some knowledge of astronomy and didn't know any of that. Very cool.
do now. But for my campaign world Thea, I keep everything in Manila folders. I just write on essentially a sheet of notebook paper, tear it out, pop it in the Manila folder it belongs in.
Nice. What
So I'm doing something similar for my mega dungeon, and once I have it all written out, I'll digitize it and in such a way that other people will have an easy time running it for themselves.
Oh, nice. Is the method there kind of like there's an editing process as you bring it from paper to digital? Is like as you transfer it, you can think about it
Yeah, I assume as much. I mean, I've never done it before. I like I said, I keep all of Thea right now on paper,
just because you
and
prefer.
yeah, I prefer writing on paper. I prefer
Yeah.
having something physical that I can access while I'm running the game. I keep a spread of
Mm,
books and notes and stuff behind my DM screen. I don't play off of a computer, although I'm sure that I could, but I currently don't because I like the physical aspect. I like the tactility of using a
mm.
pen and paper.
I've also looked back over some of my notebooks that I have from whatever 10 years ago or something, and just looking at like the notes I wrote or the stories or items I created, it's a lot of fun to have that physical
Yeah.
copy. Yeah, awesome. So let's see a couple other things we wanted to go over before we wrap up today. Just get into maybe some of our influences and our other hobbies. Let's go ahead and take over there.
So we have both played Magic the Gathering for very long time, since I want to say more specifically fall 2009, give or take.
Something like that.
Uh,
Zendikar era was roughly
yeah, Zendikar. Um,
the original. Yeah.
yeah, we've both been playing like on and off, seriously or not, at various points in our lives. We also are big board gamers.
Oh yeah.
Um, we've played Terra Mystica is a hugely dense game.
In our circle, it's kind of regarded as like the top tier complexity of like gamer street cred. If you've played Terra Mystica, you're a real player. you know.
Yeah, I mean it's not the most complex game out there, but it's one of the more dense ones that we've enjoyed.
Mm.
Um, I like to joke every time like we have friends over. I'm like, oh, well, we could play Terra Mystica. There's only 8 things to do in it,
Right.
and
Real quick.
while that is technically true, there's only 8 actions you can take on a turn. That doesn't make it not still complex in its own right.
Right. I've recently played a few games that are of that same 5X strategy resource kind of games. Terraforming Mars, which is absolutely super cool. That one has become super popular lately. And then Arc Nova is another one. So Terraforming Mars obviously is about terraforming the planet Mars.
Of
Arc
course.
Nova, the gameplay is somewhat similar to Terraforming and Terra Mystica, but it's about running a zoo. So there's like an
Oh,
aspect of actually building the physical zoo, as well as like making alliances or something like that with other nations, and basically getting like grants to protect certain species, and trying to acquire native animals and whatnot. So really interesting.
that's really cool.
Yeah, that one's quite enjoyable.
Sounds like a
Uh,
lot of fun.
yeah, in terms of those top tier, more mentally taxing games, there are a few now that are in the repertoire that in my local place.
Hmm. My I think the next one I'm going to give a serious shot to is I think it's called Eclipse. A friend of mine brought it over and was like, "Oh my god, we should play this." And it basically looks to me like the board game version of Sins of a Solar Empire,
Oh my god!
which yeah, which if
Oh,
you haven't heard of it is very very
crunchy.
um, crunchy is the exact word I was going to use. Crunchy real time strategy game. Um, it is
The Space Empire
dense as
builder.
all hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a space empire builder. It's yeah, very good game. But woof, it's intense. And Eclipse looks like it kind of evokes the same fantasy as Sins of a Solar Empire does.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to dig into that one. Other hobbies we've engaged with. You mentioned briefly Warhammer. I am doing the first painting day I've had in a long time. I think probably tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Monday rather.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
I would say around when COVID hit, I was locked in my room a lot. I was basically, at home all the time, and started digging into Warhammer. I don't know what it is that caught my eye about it, but we'd seen it in game stores and as kids. I think we actually painted a model that our dad had like an old Britonia model, and I remember
Mm.
using a toothpick to get super tiny details because we didn't have a small brush like that. So I was really impressed with my, 5-year-old me painting a horse and getting that lining on the his banner, just perfect. So when COVID hit, we were at home a lot, and the models that Games Workshop puts out were just super impressive. Started studying the rules, making army lists, and yeah, we kind of got into that a few years ago. Like you said, Magic for a long time, a lot of board games. Um,
Mm.
Computer games have been in our history for a long time. You said you've been playing a lot of
Of
WoW
course.
lately.
Yeah. There's a new release for it, and I've been just diving in. It's been excellent.
Nice. You mentioned Melee Hunters, and I was like, whoa!
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Is this only for the Wrath of the Lich King servers or Classic as well?
This is only for classic servers, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was not. I know Wrath was wildly popular, but I actually prefer the pure Classic WoW myself.
Yeah, the pure classic WoW has, I mean, a feel that simply does not exist in other expansions and frankly other games at all. It's very unique, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess other hobbies related. We have both got into painting around the same time as Warhammer 2. So painting models has been super cool. Sort of related to that was also 3D printing models. So I did a lot of research into that. I still haven't done it yet, but someday, I'll
get
sign up for
yourself a
one of those
printer and
Patreons. Yeah, print out some of their
yeah,
minis. Nice. Yeah, I guess we're on the Q&A for today, and we're going to start wrapping it up. So we don't actually have any questions from you guys. It's our first episode.
of course.
Really, the whole idea here is we just like RPGs and talking about RPGs, and we just wondered what kind of things you guys would want to hear more from us. So you got any questions for the audience, Max?
Questions for the audience. Well, the most obvious one is what kind of questions does the audience have for us?
Yeah.
That's what I want to ask. Is
Ask us away.
um, ask away. Also, what sort of things are the audience interested in hearing? This is still a very new project and very much in the
Reflective.
molten plastic stages, if you
Yeah.
will, and we can form it into whatever we like, and whatever, importantly, the audience likes.
Yeah. Also curious what kind of games you guys play.
Yes.
Tell us about it. I mean, because we're interested in playing more. So if there's some cool games we don't know about, please let us know.
Yeah.
All right. It's good chatting, Max.
Good chatting, Calvin. Until next time.
Likewise. We'll see you guys in the second episode. Until then, have a good life.